So I very much feel the weight of this word, right? It seems to be the word that he is producing in my life. He's like, you're going to know me as the one who began the good work. And then you're going to know me as the promise keeper, the one who finished that good work. He is faithful to complete it. You're going to know me as the faithful one. And in that verse, this is what you will find as you are walking with him. Your self-effort is not needed. Your capability is not required. In fact, it seems to be where faith is going to be produced and grace that is going to empower you to keep going will put to death your self-effort and what you think you need to walk with him. I think that we can begin thinking that walking with God it really looks like what we're doing for him. I don't think so. No. I think that's whenever our hand is in it. But if you walk long enough, you will see, oh, there's no way out of this. Like he who began a good work is faithful to complete it. He's going to show me who he is. I can feel the weight of it. I can feel the pressure of it. And you giving up many, many, many times, you falling down many, many, many times, is just another place where he's going to sift the fear and sift the doubt out of you. So that at the end of it, when the process is complete, you know him as the faithful one. And in knowing him as the faithful one, you are free from yourself, no longer bound to what you feel like you had to bring to the table. As you found that walking with God was basically like an empty room with the table in the middle, and there's just a few things on it. And none of these things that you pick up on a day-to-day basis make logical sense as something to measure of getting any kind of progress done. It seems to be the opposite. You're just like, what is this? It's like David with the sling. They're like, he put on the armor, put on the armor. And he's like, that's not how I've been walking with God, though. I've been walking with him with this sling. And that's all he needed. And that's all that's going to be there for you. It's not going to make logical sense. I believe it is his jealous love for you to know him, to have intimacy with him, that puts the pressure on you to continue. Not this like forcing pressure. It's just this like there's nowhere else to go. Because he has closed all the doors to the old things. And there's only one way to walk, and it's forward with him as he's with you step by step, leading you into the new things, into the things that are unfamiliar. But before you get there, there is a burial, there is a death to all of the things that were familiar to you. It's all of the things that you felt like you needed on this walk with him. He's like, you don't. I'm having it where these things are becoming too heavy for you, and you're like, well, I gotta give up right here because I'm no longer capable of doing this. He's like, exactly. I've led you to this place where now this is too heavy. Let it go. And as you let it go, you find that you don't need it in the walk with him, that his grace truly is sufficient in your weakness. This isn't just a Bible verse that you just tell yourself. It's a reality that he produces in you. It is a truth that he produces in you. The seed, the word, is planted in you, and then you will come to know of that word. And there will be a foundation in you because he has laid the foundation in you. He is the producer of all things. This is what he keeps showing me in my life because there's no way for me to produce anything here. And the more that I walk with him, the more that I see that he's not asking me to be capable. He's not even asking me to trust him. He's not asking anything of me. And because I don't feel needed and my capability is not required, it has exposed what I truly believed about my weakness, which was like, oh, this is not good. Like, he can't do anything with this. I have to be capable. I have to be capable. He's like, no, you do not. I'm not looking to you to be capable. I am faithful to complete this good work. So I see him as a gentleman, right? Like, he will prepare you to then begin walking in a new direction, right? He has to have your yes, right? He's not going to just force you to go where you don't want to go. But all it takes is one encounter. And him knowing the desires of your heart, of what he has put in you, he's like, now it's time. Now it's time to walk in this direction. Where it is going to feel uncomfortable, or I'm leading you into a grave, but I'm with you. I'm for you. And you're going to come to know of this. And there will be greater intimacy between us as you find at the end of the process, it was his faithfulness that got me through. Grace empowered me to remain, and remaining was all that he was looking for me to do. And tapping out, there was grace for that. And giving up, there was grace for that. And just like falling down over and over and over and over and feeling like, well, there's no way I'm going to get this because I've already given up. He's like, there's grace for that. I'm going to use this place where you fall down and where you feel incapable as a way of sifting out the fear and the doubt, the unbelief, which is really the belief that you need to add something, bring something to the table to continue walking with me. No, you do not. And the self dies in the walk with God, as you find that the self is not required in the walk with God. And it seems to be by design that the walk with God is the death to the self, right? It is the crucifying of the flesh. I think that he just already handles it. See, in our own self-effort, we're like, okay, I have to crucify my flesh here, right? I have to pick up my cross and walk. Yeah, no, you're just pointing to all the places where you feel like you have to have capability. And I'm telling you, walk with God long enough and you will see that these things are not necessary. Their things are not required. These things are not asked of you. And because they're not asked of you, the self is not required. And then the self dies naturally as the Spirit of God leads you, as his grace is sufficient in your weakness to produce what he has said he's going to produce the whole time. The really difficult part is the death, it seems. The really difficult part is coming to know that what was familiar to you is feeling like you had to show up in some kind of way and continue to do a thing. And you look to that thing to be able to try to measure your progress so you can feel kind of safe in that. But none of that's required in the walk with God. Walk with him long enough and you will find that that's not required. And that way of walking with him is extremely unfamiliar to you, which is scary, which is uncomfortable. And that's where faith is going to be produced. Walking with God seems to be, in my life, it's just remaining another day. And I can tap out as much as I want. And I can give up as much as I want. He's already factored in everything. The work has already begun. So he, with this jealous love, is now faithful to complete it. And there's very little wiggle room, right? Because he has this way where the Holy Spirit will show me a scorched earth, and that every possible way that I could have gone is no longer accessible to me, right? Like the truth is said in just enough for me to know of my weakness and to know I can produce nothing in my own strength. It's not a manipulation. It's the truth that comes in and shows me what's real and what's not, and shows me that a life built on self is not a life at all. And I actually desire what he desires for me, which is to be free in him, to live in him. You see, he set me up, just like he will set you up. And you will find that on the walk with him, this is what he does. This is to me is how he gets you to continue walking with him. He doesn't need anything he doesn't need our willpower. He doesn't need us to continue to choose to walk with him. I don't believe so. Look for the exit, and you will find that grace meets you in that place. And then he will motivate you again to remain. As he says, I'm getting us where we're going, because I want to build intimacy with you so that you know that whenever we get to this place that I am taking you, you will no longer be bound to yourself. and feeling like you have to bring something to the table, something to qualify yourself to be in this new place that I'm bringing you into. No. It seems to be that the self naturally dies in the walk with God because the self is not required in the walk with God. And this is the thing that is very, very difficult, because your whole life, it's like your identity has been in the self. You haven't known any other identity, and that identity has to die. And you can't put it to death, because that would just be another ego stroking, thing to do. What ends up happening is it dies naturally as the Spirit of God leads you, as He leads you. She's just like, what do you need me for? He's like, I don't need you. That's not just something you're just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. No, because your whole life you have felt like you had to bring something to the table. That's the identification with the self. The self needs a place at the table. When he says that the self doesn't need a place at the table, and by the way, you are not the self, how do you think that's going to feel? But it's good. And I feel the weight of his gaze on me that looks at me and says, I got this. I got this. There's nowhere for me to run. There is nowhere for me to go. I am held in his hand. It's the only thing that makes sense, but it doesn't feel like it makes any sense. Walking with God is not something that you can really measure until the faith, the substance of things not seen, is finally seen by you. You see that you've arrived somewhere. You're like, you have been leading me, but you don't lead the way a man leads. You're not looking to me to do a bunch of things. You're not having me carry a backpack with water and supplies and all of these things. No, those things the self needs. And you will find as you were walking with him, it's designed to bring out your weakness. It's designed to be a gap you can't fill, a place where you are not capable, a stretching past what you were capable of. Hello, endurance. Hello, perseverance. Hello, long suffering. He's like, I got what you're really looking for. And then you just start salivating for what he only has. And so if he only has it, then he can only give it to you. And if he gives it to you, you can't get it early because he has it. And so you have to be prepared for it. But you don't prepare the self for it. The preparation to receive what he has for you is actually the death to the self, as you see the self is not required in the situation. The self is keeping you bound. But you can't unbind yourself. That would just be something for the self to do. You know what I'm saying? That would be something that the ego and the pride can take credit for. No, that's very humbling. As you see, it's the Spirit of God that leads me in my weakness. We are going places because he is leading me. Try to tap out. Do it. I think it's designed for you to be like, you know what, God? Fuck off. And he's like, good. I've been waiting for you to say that because you think that's going to disqualify you. Or we're going to stop right here and I'm just going to give up on you. You think that if you act a certain way or do a certain thing, stop doing something or start doing a different thing that I'm going to be like stumped with you. No, you need to walk this way and do this. No, he doesn't need you to be that way. Trust me. Go find out for yourself. It's just something I guess you really have to experience. He who began a good work, he is faithful to complete it. You will get to the place that he is taking you because of his faithfulness, because of a grace that is on your life, because he wants to see you more free than you can even conceive of. And you are only going to be free when the self is dealt with. And you cannot deal with the self yourself, right? A walk with God is not something we can measure, not in our own strength anyway. It seems to be that's where faith is. See, it's all backwards with him. He will not lead you the way a man leads you. That's an old conversation that's coming to an end as you find, damn, waiting on God truly is the hardest thing in the world because I can't do it in my own strength. It's not even something I want to do anymore. That's just the position I'm in. I'm held in a position waiting on God. I'm held in position as the clay, and he is the potter, and his firm but gentle hands are molding me into the man that he says, I know who you are. You're getting there. I'm getting there. I'll see you on the other side, I guess. And we'll both do a little high five as we say, wow, that was absolute hell. But at the same time, I'm free in a way I could never conceive of because there's no self to be dealt with anymore. There's no behavior to be managed anymore, as I find that he has produced it. And his grace is sufficient in my weakness. And it was his faithfulness and his jealous love that got me to this place that I'm in. So now I'm free there. I don't have to try to manage that position because I didn't put myself in that position. And I know it.